and welcome to this special roundtable of Indian Education Outlook and Poll, a discussion on technology and education. More than a decade ago, famous Silicon Valley entrepreneur and Netscape co-founder Mark Anderson wrote an essay in the Wall Street Journal titled "Why Software is Eating the World." Today, many of us think that software has probably already eaten the world. Technology has always been a great leveler and a disruptor. Look at the media, where the print is struggling to stay afloat on a digital tide. Look at financial services. How many of us have ever been to a bank branch recently? When it comes to education, technology has been disrupting it for a while now. All that this pandemic has done is speeded up the rate of change. It has acted as a catalyst. Today, there is not only a growing demand for change, there is also a large amount of investment coming in to speed up that. Technology will not only redefine how we teach and learn, but also the students' campus experience, use of staff time, and investments in estates and facilities. Keeping this in mind, we have organized today's session, which brings 4 experts who work at the cusp of education, technology, and innovation. This is not really what was the Gyan session. Education leaders have been invited for an open discussion on the way forward. So let me quickly introduce our panel for today. We have Dr. Parag Diwan, who's an edupreneur who advises many prestigious higher education institutions, especially on Education 4.0. Let me quickly invite the first speaker, Dr. Diwan. You have 5 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you, Ram, and wonderful welcome to all the participants, the leading doyens of higher education in this country. And it's a real privilege to be with all of you this afternoon. I'm going to briefly talk about few key aspects of technology, higher education, processes, automation, imperatives. So first of all, we all know that we are facing several disruptive forces. One is, of course, globalization, and many new models are being built. These days, we talk about international ratings, times, QS, what have you. There are many collaborative models built around 3+1, 2+2, and with the new NEP, there would be a possibility now, a distinct possibility for overseas campuses operating in India. So on one side, we have this globalization bit. On the other side, there is a fiscal realities, increased funding, by whether it's by promoters or it's by government to the institution, is based on performance. What kind of performance, placement outcomes, other outcomes in terms of student experiences, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of pressure both on private and public higher education institution in terms of finances or fiscal realities are facing us. Also, the students have their own changing expectations these days. There is always now a ROI factor, which was not there when we were students. Kids ask, if we pay X amount of fee, what is the kind of salaries that we're going to get after graduation? So it has become a quite interesting ROI-based equation. So that has to also to be met by the leaders of higher education. And at the end, as Ram also said in its opening remarks, technology is, creating huge amount of disruptive innovations or transformative innovations, leading to increasing efficiencies, engagements, new educational models, HBO, hybrid, blended, online, part here, part there. And many, many interesting things is what being led by technology. We'll talk about these technological issues and technological innovations as we go down. So in any university, there are certain set of key processes, and these key processes need to be managed well. And these processes can be structured on one side on academic structure, recruitment, admission of students, student information systems, grading, degrees, advising. On other level, it cuts across the hierarchy of the university, the provost or PVC or vice chancellor, to the setting of academic offerings and degree requirements. Registrar looks into data management. Students themselves are looking into, application, degree audits. With the choice-based credit system, you can have a bespoke degrees, and then when you grant degree, how do you do an audit? And then whole host of student self-services have come into play. That's where some of the edtech companies are playing a part, including Paul on the how to manage the student-based self-services. So this is a key process map, and a lot of universities are getting highly automated. They're implanting ERP systems to manage all these processes. So these are the key processes, and one should always look into a process map of the university, and which is important. These days, whenever we do a ERP implementation, we look into business process re-engineering or reimagining to fit the model there. Student life cycle management, again, There's a full life cycle that needs to be managed from recruitment to graduation to alumni. Today, role of alumni is also very, very important and leading to fundraising and alumni engagement. Of course, the other features are there, but on the other two sides, there is huge amount of technology use. So whatever you use should be on one side device agnostic. All today's Gen Z is, leading to experience of consumer-like experience of Flipkart or Amazon. So that kind of, and social listening, social engagement, what kind of word of mouth comes out of your decision tool, data-driven decisions, etc., are being taken by the strategic team of the institution. And then, of course, there is embedded collaboration, chat, and those kind of features. So these kind of manage the student life cycle. So, there is a new design paradigm in which implementing technology to take care of student needs and experience, student needs of seeing a path to completion with a choice-based credit system, whether he can fit in into schedule, when would he get a specific class, at what time, those kind of things. And from institution, there's always a challenge of declining enrollment, how to boost it, how to reduce costs because costs keep on mounting, dropout rates also increase. So for this all, there is a design paradigm, which means the technological systems or technological interventions should look into personalization of experience for students, predictive analytics for institutions, and interoperability with institutions. So these are important issues in designing technological platforms for institutions. So finally, we all talk about digital transformation of our institutions and what are the various silos or key areas of digital transformation. One, of course, is the business drivers, where you are trying to drive your business decisions through data, how to manage risk. We are building digital campuses. So these are some of the business drivers for that. Then there are technological drivers, how mobile computing, cloud SaaS-based personalization, cyber threats are also there. I've seen some of the institution websites being hacked. Then also there are IT function drivers, which means how do you integrate, how do you standardize, what kind of components you use to build your digital roadmap. And finally, there are talent drivers. You do all this, but are there people within system to manage this, lead the change management, and look into the lead time to productivity of the tool that you deploy. So I think these are the few things. Look forward to hearing from you and from other
Diwan, for sticking within that 5-minute frame and yet giving us so much of information. I really appreciate that. I understand the kind of work that takes to fit everything in 5 minutes. There's so much to discuss. May I now ask Mr. Manav Sehgal, who will talk about the broad frameworks to build technology roadmaps. Come in. Over to you, Manav.
All right, thank you so much. Let me set some context while that is happening. So I represent AWS Cloud, which is one of the businesses part of Amazon. And within AWS, the public sector team, which works with education and government. Amazon, as you know, has been inventing and pioneering across several businesses and products over the last 25 years, including e-commerce, Alexa, Kindle, and so on and so forth. A number of these products are actually used by students and by all of us. Two questions that I'm going to try and answer in these 5 minutes. Normally, this is a 9-hour workshop. Happy to conduct that workshop for some of you if you're interested. Two questions are, one, how does Amazon innovate? What's the framework? And what can we learn and reuse for our own business or for our own institution? If you look back 25 years ago, this is the sort of mental model that was written on a paper napkin by a founder. And it puts customer experience right in the center. And you can relate customer experience to student experience of teachers or administrative staff experience. And then we moved to traffic, which was relevant for e-commerce, web traffic. But from a traffic standpoint, you can look at conversion, registrations, performance, and so on. And then moving to sellers, one choice which Amazon made very early on was, should we just have ourselves as the sellers or should we bring in other sellers on the platform? And we made the latter choice. So you can look at sellers as vendors or technology providers or partners from your perspective. The more selection it creates for your customers, for your engines in terms of feature cycle, it feeds on itself. As you increase selection, as you increase the number of solutions, your student experience, customer experience, and teacher experience increases. And that drives the growth engine, which creates economies of scale. The other aspect to this is, how do we rationalize around this in terms of Amazon follows or AWS follows in terms of changes in the organization? So when it comes to customer experience, we are highly customer obsessed. Everything starts with the end customer in mind. When it comes to adoption, Organization culture is very important. So we have 14 leadership principles which we run by. When it comes to partners and sellers, technology becomes quite central. So looking at service-oriented architecture or serverless architecture nowadays, or looking at a data lake, with basically bringing a unified data view across all your systems. And then, of course, when it comes to solutions, looking at mechanisms or complete processes which have an input and an output and they're measurable. And that's what effectively drives the overall innovation framework that we run Amazon and its various businesses successfully over the last 25 years. So what we normally do with our customers and partners is we do a 9-hour workshop where we apply these mechanisms. And of course, not all of these mechanisms may apply to you, and then figure out for your own specific innovation, how can this framework be useful? That's it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Manav. That was also, a great thing to try and put that into 5 minutes. I'd like to now call upon Dr. Ashwin Fernandez, who will speak about leveraging technology and data for excellence and better ranks.
Thank you so much, Sengupta, for the introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you esteemed leaders and visionaries for India. Our mission, which is to enable motivated people around the world to fulfill their missions, their objectives in life by fostering international mobility, educational achievement, and career development. So our mission at QS has been to enable motivated people, and our passion has driven us to what we are currently doing. A lot of people know that we came out of the UPenn today, spread across the world. Just a quick introduction. We do the rankings for whoever doesn't know QS, which are IREC approved and referenced by various government agencies, UNESCO, World Economic Forum, Economist, and several other agencies. That's very, very briefly on QS to keep in with the time. So the case what I'm trying to make today is the challenges which higher education institutions have towards excellence. That's exactly what we've been talking so far. And these include and start from enrollment to teaching and learning, to placements, industry-oriented research, innovation, internationalization, and finances. And it is very clear that while we have these challenges, the way to look at it is to use technology and to enable technology in the entire life cycle of the university. And I was tempted to say that improving or having technology will help improve rankings. But rankings or ratings or accreditation are the end objective, are the outcome of what you do. I have changed a slide a bit earlier and said that performance improvement, adopting technology will support performance improvement, and performance improvement will support better rankings and better ratings. So there are two case studies I have. One is by the World Bank, which in its recent report suggested that institutions that invest in technology are able to reshape their operations and become much more adaptive and flexible to implement innovative initiatives very quickly in response to constant change. And I think we've seen that with COVID-19. We also can refer to the University of Malaya report, which looked at the top 500 institutions in the world and seen that 369 institutions of the top 500, which integrated technology, seen high performance in their rankings as well. These are data points which we're talking about here. So I have a 3-point agenda I would like to propose to institutions on how to increase their performance, how to look at excellence. And these 3 points are connected definitely to technology. So the first being technology integrated research, and the adoption of technology right from collaboration to analytics, citation tools, plagiarism, dissemination, etc., does support better research. And that is proven by a study from Leiden University in 2018, which discovered that 65% of all papers in the last 15 years were made with the support of technology. Not just that, 30% of them have used technology while doing research, and 53% of them have used citation tools, 33% have used grammar and plagiarism tools, and the top 10 percentile of papers were disseminated using technology. So there is a good case that adopting technology in your research does support better citations and definitely will impact in the rankings as well. The second most important 3-point agenda is technology integrated data analytics for decision making. And this is the problem we've seen with most institutions, not just in Asia, but across the world sometimes, is availability of real-time accurate data has been a challenge. So we've seen how technology and platforms and sophisticated systems have been used in some institutions. The second biggest challenge is the accuracy of this data. So having tools to collect, analyze, store, and produce meaningful reports is important, not just the availability of technology. So that's the second point. And the third point in this agenda is technology integrated learning. So when the pandemic hit us, we've seen how Australia was, while students did have an impact, they were the easiest of all the countries to move into a blended mode. The reason is Australia, and particularly institutions like University of Newcastle for that matter, or some of the other top institutions, have used a blended mode for a long time. So they do that. Malaysia followed suit with flipped classrooms, learning management systems, and big data, learning analytics, MOOCs, and so on. While we've seen that, I think there's also a good case that using technology in your learning does support lifelong learning as well, and how you can connect back to your alumni, because this has been the biggest challenge of institutions, is how do you give back to alumni while they're still out there and they are in the workforce. So that connect lifelong learning can happen with a technology integrated platform. So this is a 3-point agenda I have to make. And how does QS support these initiatives for you? Very quickly, so we have established and supported institutions through our rankings, ratings, our ELE digitization certification, which I think a few of your institutions have already, the QS Stars for online, and very soon to launch our school rating system as well. So we have established and promoted data collection, storage, and reporting best practices across institutions. We have promoted the adoption of quality assurance models. We have also promoted best practice sharing to international forums in recent times using webinars and so on. So I think that is how we are empowering institutions to meet the objectives of doing better. And the ultimate goal, while doing good all of this, the outcome, what we're looking for is definitely improving the ranking, rating, or getting a better accreditation. But the point is you have to improve your performance in order to improve your ranking, ratings, or get better accreditation. And that's the point I have today, is how technology can support you in doing that. And this is the case I have to make with the 3-point agenda. So that was it, very short and sweet for you. And I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thank you so much for listening to me. So I'm happy to take any questions later.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Fernandes. And now call upon Hemant Sahal to talk about the key ingredients of successful technology adoption.
Thank you, Ram. Okay, great. So I'll just speak about from a very, our experience of working with institutions in the last 7 years. What have we learned and what we have seen? So I see 6 building blocks of the technology stack in a university or an institution. It starts from a system of record where we have to very scientifically organize and store all the master data across the functions. And this data needs to be connected. So when we talk about scores, how are scores connected to internal assessments? How are internal assessments connected to the schemas and grade rules? And so many different areas in HR, in finance. And so systems of record, even if it takes a little more time, institutions must spend more time in getting their data right, organized in a central place. And only if we have a system of record in place properly is when we can graduate to the systems of engagement, where you can manage HR, you can have fees management, you can have learning management systems and several different technologies. We have more scope of experimentation with systems of engagement, where we can do iterations, keep evolving them, while there is hardly any scope in the system of record to do experimentation. And if we can get the systems of engagement right, what will happen is people will be using technology for everyday activities, right from your security offices to finance to HR, everywhere. And that would result in a lot of data. And if we are able to capture that data right, is when we can convert that into systems of intelligence, which is analytics. So these are the 3 different layers which have to be very well in a sequential way implemented. And while this is on the platform side, I think 3 key ingredients of successful technology stack is, 1, having mobility, like Dr. Parag mentioned. The today's generation, and even all of us, are using mobile apps more frequently. It allows us to have freedom to use and get access to it wherever we need. Second, integrations. I think you would be using several different technologies. You will never have one software able to take care of everything. So you must look at how systems will integrate and talk to each other, and continuous innovation. Technology needs to continue growing. It's not a one-time decision. That's the 6 blocks that I see as important building blocks. Now, what drives technology adoption? What have we seen as the important factors? I think from an internal factors perspective, having a well-planned processes are very important. Most institutions we see do not have defined processes. Simple example is timetabling. What is the process to create a timetable? What is the process to define examination schema? These are missing. And the most critical is the competent, empowered technology teams. We see a lot of institutions do not have dedicated technology teams. And even if they have, they're not empowered enough. And I think all of us know how it's very difficult a lot of times to work with even well-intentioned academicians because they don't like fixed processes. So I think technology teams are there, but they need to be empowered enough to drive implementation as well. I think defined budgets help move faster. Well-set goals are very important. From an external factor perspective, I think user experience, ease of use will, in when you're looking at any technology, how easy it is to use. Is it going to adapt to your processes? That's very critical. Is it going to continuously improve, and will it scale up or not? So these are the key factors we have seen how technology is successful or not. I'll quickly talk about the levers we see from a digital transformation perspective. I think there are 2 key goals. One is on the academic excellence side, other is the operational excellence. From a key academic excellence, I think going forward, each institution should look at somebody who's playing a chief learning officer role, somebody who's reimagining learning at each and every step in the institution, which results in how, whether it's collaborative learning, how the faculty will be reskilled to the new kinds of learning that you want to facilitate. And finally, the student feedback. Do you have a continuous feedback from the students that you can stay on top of? From an operational excellence perspective, I think having a chief technology, chief innovation, chief information officer is critical because you need somebody to look at technology from a long-term perspective, who will look at each and every process in the institution, how to improve it, whatever existing resources are there, making sure we are utilizing them to the best, and will curate the experience for different stakeholders at each level. And if we can put these levers on, I think the way I look at technology in the long term is there are 2 things we need to look at from a technology. How are we going to reduce costs? By making teams more productive, by having less errors in our system, reducing the cross-functional friction that exists between different teams, and making the resource utilization better. On the other side, the return on investment would be on value creation. How can we increase the demand? How can we make our placements better? How do we enhance the learning? And finally, how do we create a memorable campus experience for the faculty members and students so that they actually remember the time they have spent in the campus? And the last point is, I think we have to change our lens of looking at technology from pricing to return on investment. It doesn't matter whether it costs 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. What matters is what return is it giving to you. And that's one big point I wanted to make today to all the key leaders today, is that we need to start looking at the ROI lens when we're taking technology decisions rather than the pricing lens, which will actually drive decisions, because I'm sure you will be taking so many decisions going forward on the technology side. So thank you, Ram, for being patient. I think we're just going to open up the discussion. Like I said, I would request all the invited members to stick to either a challenge they have seen with technology that they want to bring out and be discussed, or any observation or a new area they think, they haven't seen any good technology in that space that you want to discuss with everyone. And it's also an opportunity to learn from listening to each another here. I'm going to start with Madhu, ma'am. Thank you so much. So, ma'am, over to you.
Hello, everybody, all the panelists here. Thank you, Hemant, for giving me this opportunity. What we were talking about, that experience so far with technology, I will say that because in Chitkara University, we thought of that it was a challenge for all of us and that it has become an opportunity. Now, how it has become an opportunity? Because when we started our campus in 2002, from 2nd or 3rd year onwards, we started shifting to digital modes. And if you see the chalk pad in our campus, it was a startup from our campus only. And we started from everything ERP in-house. So we were already very much digitalized. Campus was like that. So during this COVID-19, from blackboard teaching to shifting to the digital learning was not very difficult for Chitkara University. What we did in this is that MOOCs were already developed by the professors of Chitkara University, and we were using the already marketed MOOCs here. because of this technology, we were able to meet them. Then we were having the assessments. We took support of Moodle first and then switched to My Anatomy. And we were able to do all the evaluations in time, declare the results in time. So that was very comfortable for us with the use of this technology. If you see the MOOCs platforms, so we were taking the courses from Swayam, Coursera, edX, and these all MOOCs platforms we were using and very efficiently used. And then if you see that business programs, so we started using Colpol as LMS, thanks to Hemant, which is providing one-stop solution for all teaching learning requirements. So I strongly believe that if we develop a long-term strategy, it is not only because of the lockdown or because of COVID-19, but it should be a long-term strategy for implementing the technology in higher education. And it is something different than using it for a short period of time. If we will use it only for now and then not using it, now it will not only that you are having the teaching learning processes face to face. It has to be the blended learning where some part of it should be online and some part of it should be with using this technology.
Dr. Chitkara, she spoke about all the spectrum what technology is doing in all our universities. As you all were talking, technology disruption in education is there. And it had been there, and this lockdown has given us an opportunity to explore it further, to explore it in a faster way. It is fine that technology brings transparency. It is fine technology is equalizer. It is fine that technology helps us to take decisions fast. It is fine that it is giving us a lot of things. But my concern is that the differentiator, what all universities were having, a unique thing, this somewhere is missing. Because all edtech companies, what we are taking, be from Amazon or Coursera or edX, or from Swayam to NPTEL or whatsoever is there, we all are doing the same thing. So, very soon what will happen, we all will become replica of each other. And this is my concern. This is one. Number two, one of our university, as you know, we have two universities. One is a Shobit University, which is in Meerut. And second university is in a small town called Gango of district Saharanpur. When I talk about technology as an institution, we can afford to have everything. But we have to see who's the client. I was seeing the chart, what Manav was showing. A client has to be there, a student, and user is our student. We have to see where connectivity is there or not. Can they afford the right devices or not? Because many times I personally feel that all these, when we say, okay, it will give me ranking, branding, grading, or accreditation, I always say in 1,000 universities, if we win 5 or 10 of our universities, they are in top 100 of the world, how it will change our education ecosystem. We have to work very inclusively with the social ecosystem. So technology is fine, but now adoption of technology in India in the education system, in universities, it is in very initial stage actually. We cannot say we achieved everything. We have to look further that how we can integrate this technology in the social ecosystem, in the ecosystem of our students, where acceptability is more, where the uniqueness of every institution remains as it was or it should be.
Very relevant discussions. Everyone has diligently transformed their universities. In the month of May, we conducted the faculty development programs for 1 week, in which we gave the comprehensive training to all the faculties on this ERP system. We also give the training on all other platforms also. We have design school, we have architecture school. The number is large. So those people were not that conversant with the TCS, ION ERP system. So we have kept option for design, architecture, and the fine art people. They can use the other platform, other LMS like Microsoft Team or other. We also have the film and television. all the technology and management colleges are very comfortable with the TCS ION ERP system. And now more than 8,000 our students, they are happily enjoying everything. I recently took the feedback. They are very happy. And now the system is not giving any hiccups in delivery. So I think everyone is happy. Last semester, they faced the problem of the internet bandwidth. But as we specified to them, now they have opted for the bigger bandwidth every day, maybe around 4 MB or so. So they are not facing any problem. So teaching learning is going wonderful. We have converted our books, majority of books, into the e-format. We have big scanners, and all those books are loaded on into our ERP system. So library is made available, and that work is continuously going on. Laboratories, few laboratories, we have converted to the cloud laboratories on our own server. Video laboratories are there. We have faculties like bioengineering, food technology, civil engineering, chemistry, etc. So where video laboratories are being prepared. And more interestingly, we have an examination system right from the beginning of the university. We had a on-screen evaluation system. We just extended that system for the sending the question bank, the question paper to the students. So accordingly, all the answer sheets we received on our server, and on-screen evaluation is done for 8,000 students. We integrated our system with a Zoom. So the proctored, our teacher was able to see every student at his home writing the answer sheet. Only point, now the problems we are facing in the, as rightly said, we can use the technology for integrated research. Still, our people are not, they are not taking any decisions by using the data and analytics. So that in that area, we have to train them. So that is, and the academic excellence, operational excellence, how we can achieve in this new system. So these are the challenges. So I think slowly we will learn, and we will try to collaborate with the people like you, and we will try to make the impact in that also. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Great opportunity to learn the amazing work which has been done by the leaders in education. So I won't call myself an academic. I'm a guy from 20 years in the corporate world and trying to do something unique here. So for me, I'm going to just raise some issues. I think, the challenge, this is, this conversation is a different conversation possibly if we were not in the COVID world. And it's a different conversation in the COVID world, right? There are two parameters to look at. When we get back to the real world, how, I'm sure a lot of our students are telling each one of you, as me, they are dying to get back to campus, right? So the student experience, although, Zoom does make it happen and it makes it as best in the given situation, but they're dying to come together. They're dying to be, in the campus. So that's to me is an interesting facet that, is it going to be a switch on, switch off? The next pandemic, again, we switch on, switch off, or is there going to be a gradual move in that direction? So from my point of view, technology has been wow. I think there are some amazing tools out there, from artificial intelligence, like mentioned, proctoring without even person looking. I've seen, your technology. I've had some aha moments in that sense. How can we even match mentoring through artificial intelligence? So we've done some, 10-second tests, which would then catch the mentor with the right mentee. Correction, get into a completely paperless world. Why should we, think about paper? Can we think of a university without paper, right? To me, that is a big, chasm that we all in the education world, and I'm committed to making that thing change. I think student journeys is an important thing. So people talk about alumni. So I think the entire lifelong learning is a very interesting part. And how do we club it? Because, the edtech players are trying to get at that space. For surely, we have the ability and the, to extend. So there'll be fun there. There'll be some collaboration. There'll be some competition there. I think in the technology world, personalization and adaptation, Harvard has done a fantastic thing with HBX, right? They really, Mr. Anand there, I was privy to see their solution. Each student goes through a different experience, right? Now that's very impossible. So can we not, in the classroom, can we look at a scenario where I am in a classroom of, let's say, 60 students or 130. Can I have artificial intelligence as my partner, not competing with me, as my partner to identify which student is not paying attention? And then it points to me, X guy on that. So I ask him the question, right? So that's where the technology and the faculty start moving together, working hand in hand. In fact, Zoom has said that they're working on technology where, Eric just in a webinar last week said that they're looking at how can we get into the world of, you can actually give your professor a hug or your peer student a hug, and you can actually feel it through Zoom. And even if you're having a coffee with your partner in some part of the world, you can smell the coffee, right? So technology going into an immersive world is the future. If this COVID never goes away, God bless it does, and we don't have to do that. So I think those are some of the things. And then the peer-to-peer learning, which is, what technology has some limitations. I think some of the tools we've also used, I'm sure everybody has used, is the breakout rooms. We said, to do that in a physical campus was difficult, right? To suddenly break out in seconds, if you get people into 10 rooms and then get them back, that would take 2 hours. But now with a flip of a button, I can get my entire student into 10 rooms, do a simulation, keep looking at them in seconds, come back, do the maths. So I think that's some of the wow factor. And I'm sure we're going to use that, the next time we do a case blazer, we did a 24-hour case blazer. They were solving cases. We kept going in their rooms, looking at what they're doing. So I think some of that is the interesting aspect to bring in peer-to-peer learning. And I'll keep my comments short for the next session.
So I'll be very quick, and so there are no suggestions because a lot of seniors are already over here, and I'm actually listening and learning. The challenge that we generally face is that we, as Madhu ma'am also said, and other speakers also said, we use a lot of technological platforms. The challenge is that integration into one platform. Like we use Tally for finance, we use some other software for library, some other software for admissions. That 10 softwares that we are actually working with. LMS is something different, then online thing is something different. So there has to be a solution wherein everything can be integrated. I know it's very difficult, very easy to say, but very difficult to execute. And I think if these things can be, taken care of, then it will make a life a lot easy. And then, and also because of the government, different states have different government regulation, and everybody is so pressured with their respective governments that somehow that technology has to be bent according to the rules and regulations. So the thing that we did in this lockdown period was that we had this wonderful opportunity where all the faculty members were relatively free as compared to the other. So we made sure that we prepare for the inspections and accreditations that we were planning in 2021. So we preponed that project, and now we're going for that in 2020. So, and then to QS also, I would like to, suggest that if you can, somehow pressure the Indian government and make sure that QS is also equivalent to NIRF or NAC, then probably it would help us in a longer run, so that we don't have to go for 3-4 agencies at same time. Rather, we go for only one thing, which is equivalent to everyone. So this is my suggestion and my challenge that I have.
Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful hearing all your views. I think I'll just make 2 quick points. During this COVID period, we are seeing that technology is being used more like a badge for a university. How effectively people are using technology is a totally different scenario. So I think the actual use of technology will only come when it is completely integrated and it is part of your strategy, not part of a badge which you want to show it in the pandemic. So I think that is one, and also agree with Shekhar Vijayanji that the location of the institution is also very important, because even though technology obviously breaks the barriers, but India unfortunately still there are certain areas where you don't have that frequent bandwidth of internet, or there are technological issues. So I think that needs to be taken care, and that's like technology has become like a basic infrastructure for education as we are moving ahead. So which is something that the government really has to see how they want to enable the universities who really want to use the technology. I think one area where I really see the technology needs to be more used is the extension of labs from the university to a virtual world. I think still a lot of work has to be done. I know companies like AWS and Microsoft Azure, and these are people are working on it. But I think still we have a long way to go in this area, and I think that's going to be the future as we go, because obviously it saves the cost, and plus it can give you that one-on-one experience for each of the students. So I think that is one big area where the technology really needs to really explore.
Good evening to everybody. So my name is Dr. Shashi and I'm the Vice President of Kalasaling, located near Madurai. So even though we are in one of the most remote or backward districts of the country, we were in the forerunners when it comes of technology. And because of the interest of time, I keep my observations and challenges on both pros and cons regarding the teaching, learning and assessment process alone. Granted, yes, administration, we've been everything has already been digitized. The whole, in terms of moving on, once the lockdown started, online mode of teaching, learning, online mode of campus was not that difficult for us, given the fact that already our processes, learning management system, online evaluation processes, everything was already in place at the university. So it was just giving a break of 1 week for students to get back to their hometowns, and also a refresher course for our faculty members to move to an online mode of teaching, learning, because compared to blackboard teaching, online teaching is different and should be different. Only then would it be successful. So it was just a 1 week refresher course which was needed. And with that, we were able to go ahead and complete all our evaluations, project reviews, feedbacks, everything, on the online mode in a successful manner as well. And which was why QS also gave us the E-Lead certification from which we got this year. So when it comes to challenges, I would like to basically point out 4 different areas of challenges which we faced, where we think there is a lot of scope for improvement for the universities and the companies as well. First and foremost, I would like to say is the big digital divide. So when we started doing everything 100% online, what we found out that close to about 40 to 45% of our students did not have laptops, but they were very comfortable using mobile phones. But in terms of laptops, it was either left in their hostels or they did not have access to that. So in terms of whatever softwares which we had, be it our evaluation and assessment software as well, moving it into a mobile compatible device. Once we did that, once we ensured all our softwares were compatible with mobile devices, for the final examination, we had an attendance percentage of 99.6% students who attended the final year examinations, and that is higher than even when we conduct a paper examination. So the digital divide, if we are able to bridge that between a laptop and a mobile device, and if we are able to make it more accessible, mobile friendly, I would say in terms of the reaching out to the students, in terms of the percolation will be very high. So first and foremost, that was the first point I would like to mention. Second thing is in terms of considering that we are largely an engineering university, where we lose out on when we move on to digital education is in terms of the labs. Yes, there are virtual labs. The government of India has developed a suite of virtual labs, and we are also working on developing our own virtual labs as well. The last semester was not that big of a difficulty because the lockdown started in the month of March, wherein most of the academic year was already complete. But going forward for the next academic year, considering we are going to start it next week, in a virtual mode as well, how are we going to give the students the experience of conducting hands-on experiments? That is still a challenge. Yes, virtual labs are coming out, but where I would think there are lots of opportunities is in terms of wet labs, chemistry, biotechnology, biology, all such mechanical engineering, which was previously hands-on experience, is still missing out, and opportunities are plenty. Thirdly is in terms of the student experience, both from a personal connect and also from an all-round development. So an institution is not only a place for learning, it is a place for a student to grow in an all-round manner. So wherein you would need interaction with other students, faculty members, and most importantly, cultural activities, sports activities, and everything else which makes the entire university experience cherishable for students. That is how it has been for us. And sadly, our final year students last year were complaining that we were not able to give them a proper farewell. Students miss out on such opportunities when we move into a digital campus. So enhancing campus experience would definitely be another opportunity wherein students do not feel that even though they are apart, but they have that sense of being together, interacting with each other. So that sense, if you are able to give them using some sort of software, that would also help to the students and give them this good campus experience. So to summarize, firstly in terms of digital divide, secondly in terms of virtual labs, and finally enhancing the whole student experience in a whole campus experience. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Good evening, leaders of the respective fields. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm in perfect agreement with what the leaders have been doing, and similarly we have been doing at Hindustan. The run of the academic courses, examinations has been quite successful, all driven by the youth of the campus, I would say. Driving the faculty is more of a challenge, but because of the COVID situation, I think the acceleration of technology in universities has been exponential. I think we must, in a certain way, be thankful to COVID for giving us this opportunity to grow faster, otherwise which would have taken at least 10 years, I would say. So at Hindustan, the classes, examinations, even augmenting with international faculty, which otherwise was not as much. Running the final year projects has been quite successful. Across the group, we have around 15,000 students, of which around 70% are in engineering. So at the university, our biggest challenge was to deliver the most exciting part of the curriculum, which is for engineer the labs and workshops. The computers and electronics students were much blessed to be way ahead of the pack, because the leaders from industries over here have been providing MATLAB and AWS and ANSYS. So even IBM, EDS, companies have been already on top of their tech and providing for this. For the other students, which is also a majority like aviation, avionics, automobile in Hindustan especially, the bigger challenge was delivering the practical sessions, which normally keep them engaged. So what we did was we took the lab to them. Out of the 144 labs, around 32% of the labs we have converted to the digital format, which can be, some of them are on video, some of them are on AR and VR platforms. So we have simulators in the aviation facility. So the simulators are plugged into the system. So the video lectures are taken as to, and with the outcomes. But of course, nevertheless, in spite of developing all these core sector laboratories, we do have to conduct the real-time labs when they come back. So I'm looking at a actual semester, a whole semester of just practicals, because we don't allow a graduate to clear out of Hindustan without their hands-on experience. So what we are creating now is what we call it as DigiWorks, Hindustan demo labs. More so, the virtual labs are already available, but the demo labs, as we call it as the DigiWorks, we are quite successful in some of the core labs. I urge some of the leaders today to develop in their own workshops and labs their own content, which you can share with the students. Most of the content are beautifully laid out by the foreigners through their advanced labs, but understanding their voice and diction and enunciation is very complicated sometimes for our students. So I think we need our professors to make up that difference and create our own content. So that's what we're working at right now.
All right, let me first, right off the bat, address an issue brought up by Professor Kumar Shekhar. The thing was about how can institutions be unique if if everybody takes on these technologies. There's a couple of things. If you look at an institution, you can broadly divide them into three kinds of activities: very structured, semi-structured, and loosely structured. Administration is very structured. The instructional process, there is a structured aspect of it. There's a not very structured aspect of it. because here's where each and every individual instructor brings in their unique perspective, personality, and so on and so forth. But there's a structured aspect. And then outside of that, the third one is relationships, engagement. That is a loosely structured part. If you look at, if you were to look at all of these things in terms of two things, effectiveness and efficiency. For administration, all you're looking at is high efficiency and broadly time, effort, cost. Okay? And it doesn't matter if all institutions across the board are identical. Then there's not much difference in terms of administration. 80% of what every institution does is pretty much the same. In the United States, you can move from one institution to another, and the processes are identical. In fact, the high degree of standardization of American institutions is why there's so much flexibility there. So there needs to be a high degree of standardization, and technology should take over every administrative process that is possible to be taken. Now, as far as instruction is concerned, there is a structured part. To the extent it can be structured, it should be structured in such a way that each and every individual instructor with their own perspective, talent, energy, that can be boosted. You know, for instructors, nothing is more important than performing, being out there, engaging with the students. To the extent that you restrict them, that makes them feel choked. So how can you release that instructor's energy and emotion and motivation? So that's what technology should do. The third part is relationship and engagement. And here's when, in times like COVID, or when you have distributed learning and you have large campuses, and especially in the age of mobile technologies, technology really can play a great role here. Okay, there are a whole bunch of other things. Just one other thing, couple of things is what is unique about every institution. One is the mission. Every institution has its own mission, own sense of what that drives this institution, and that is unique. The second is the culture. The culture is something that is inculcated by the management team, and it's kept alive, and that is unique. It's collectively created by the administration, the faculty, and the students, and that can never be replicated. So there should be no fear about institutions being just mechanical, replaceable things. They're not. They're absolutely not.
So I wanted to talk about the digital divide a bit. What I wanted to talk about is the growth of innovation in post-crisis period. And it's something that's been, innovation has always been the driving force of Techno India Group for the last 35 years since we've existed. And across our institutions, we've always had a lot of innovation happening throughout time. Otherwise, creating that many institutions in the East, it's something that's almost unheard of. And something that I've personally been very involved in since the beginning of the lockdown has been organizing hackathons. So in the last 5 months, I've organized 4 global hackathons with an approximate 3 of them I've organized, and 1 I've participated in, which was the last Smart India hackathon by the government. But the 3 ones that we've done before have all been global hackathons in a way that they all originated in Estonia. And then I took them on, and then we made them into massive global hackathons. And we had, in the biggest one, which was called the Global Hack, we had 50,000 people across the world participating from various institutions, schools, colleges, universities, and trying to come up with solutions for the post-pandemic world. Now, that's something that I think would never have been possible without the use of technology, right? And we've all been talking how it can be restrictive, and technology does a lot of barriers, but you have some of the brightest minds in the world trying to come forth and trying to solve the world's biggest problem at hand. That's when you know what the transformative power of technology really is. I'm really thankful to have technology in my life, Tony, and I'm also very thankful that we live at a time where we are where we're able to where we can all try and change the narrative of human history, sitting on our couches from the comfort of our smartphones and handheld devices. So just fortunate to be in a room full of wonderful educators, and looking forward to meet you all after all this pandemic situation is behind us. And hopefully the tomorrow for education, tomorrow education is one where there's more blended learning, there's use of technology in day-to-day lives, because at the end of the day, what is technology but just an enabler for what we're already doing very, very well in our lives. So thank you very much, Hemant, and have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Meghdut, for your thoughts, and amazing having 50,000 people coding together. So I think we have already run out of time, so I'm gonna give it back to Ram and let him take over.
I don't think it would be presumptuous of me actually to sort of, speak after all these people. Hemant, when he first invited me to sort of moderate this discussion, I'll confess I was a bit overwhelmed with the sheer star power of the gathering that he put together, And you really need to take a bow, Hemant, for putting together such a stellar gathering of people from academics and technology in one place. It's been a tremendous experience just sitting here and listening to all of you. I wish that, like AWS, we had 9 hours so that we could all sit and chat and perhaps have that virtual cup of coffee like Ramananda said. That would have been really nice. Maybe we will do that one of these days. But the one thing that, I would like to close this with that, that really struck me. And like I said, Hemant, I will not take 5 minutes. Having listened to all of you here, I am absolutely confident that education in India is in extremely, extremely safe hands. And that makes me feel very, very reassured. That makes me feel really, very good about where we are going and what we are doing. So thank you, all of you. Until we meet for the cup of coffee, virtual or real, stay safe, keep shining. Jai Hind. Thank you so much.